Final score at Celtic Park, Celtic 4, Hibs 1, and much more like it from Celtic from the off tonight. No half-time rants, as far as I know, Brydo, from Brendan Rodgers. This is Tino with the Final Whistle Show, joined here by Brydo. Brydo, what was your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it was actually really enjoyable to watch, mate. I think that's the Celtic at Celtic Park we've been used to seeing for a considerable period, and yeah, it helps us put to bed how poor a performance the first half was on Sunday. So all in all, a really good job done, and some good kind of talking points for us to pour over based on individual and collective performances. So it was really good.
Before we get into all in much more detail, do you think, maybe too soon to tell, mind you, but do you think that first half at St Johnston could end up being a very important first half in the bigger picture, because it's just allowed Brendan Rodgers to address some issues within the squad and deal with any potential complacency at a really important time in the season? Do you think that half-time rant could be pivotal moving forward?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think with the gap we've got at the top, it might not be as pivotal as people think. But yeah, there's definitely a point for just focusing on just us and performance levels and individually and collectively. Like I said earlier, I think it probably does have a bearing on that. We've seen over reasonably recent history with Ange, with Rodgers' first tenure, with Lenny. You know, Charlie McGrew was actually on the radio tonight and he was talking about a half-time rant by Lenny at the Kilmarnock game when we were 3-0 down. Yeah. And that was a kind of moment for that group of players and squad of players as well. So certain things happen in sport. And listen, I've had bigger situations than the 1-0 down away to St Johnston before. But I think the timing of everything, you know, the Champions League disappointment, the performance levels haven't been great. Then that epitomised by such a poor performance in that first 45 that it's making us all kind of stand and take attention to the manager coming out and actively saying, yeah, I wasn't happy.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the lineup first of all. A couple of changes that a lot of us maybe anticipated. James actually called the team spot on in the pre-match that he might have picked up on. So he's delighted with himself. So you can send him a wee message to congratulate him when you get a chance. The changes that were called upon, it was Tomoki Iwata, as a lot of people had been clamouring for. So he stepped in the number 6, allowing Callum McGregor to go a bit further forward with Matt O'Reilly. And along the front line, you had Louis Palma, as expected, but less so O, who got the nod over Kyogo. And Mikey Johnston, as expected, also commanded a place after his cameo at St Johnston. What was your thoughts, Brydo, when you seen the lineup? Pretty pleased with them?
Yeah, I think I was. The only surprise was that we actually decided to drop Kyogo. That was the
rest him. No dropping here.
I mean, if I'm playing in that squad of players, I'm telling the manager you've dropped me, and I'll probably kick my shin pads and not pay my subs that week. But yeah, I was, because I think it needed refreshing. I think it needed people to be seen to get an opportunity. I heard James in the pre-game podcast, and he was saying, you know, if Mikey Johnston doesn't get a start, he'd be well just packing up and leaving, because after he's 45 at the weekend. So it's good to see players who, and you know what, it's good to see the manager true to his word with the scales kind of situation. Mikey Johnston coming back, and he's getting players that want to play and also kind of probably want to play for him and reward him for. I think that it was. We didn't know it was going to happen, but it was it made it a more exciting watch than maybe what we've seen the last few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know, I just thought from the off, you and I spoke just very briefly there before coming on air, and the way Hibs approached it, you know, quite open, quite expansive football, it does play into Celtic's hands. There's no getting away from that. But I think you could have predicted that based on what we've seen from Nick Montgomery's teams in recent weeks. So it made for an interesting spectacle tonight. You knew it was going to be a more open game, a more enjoyable game than whoever you want to mention that might come and park the bus at Celtic Park. And actually, I just thought from an early stage, you know, obviously we get the goal early and we'll get to that in a second, but just in general, in terms of how Celtic took the game to Hibs, it just looked like it was going to be a pretty enjoyable night.
Yeah, I think there was space for players to play in. don't get me wrong, a lot of the space they generated and created themselves by having a really energetic higher press, which seemed to cause them a lot of problems. They looked a bit nervous at the back, actually, Hibs, but that was a lot due to what we were doing. And I thought that McGregor's runs in particular and behind were more than what Turnbull and O'Reilly were doing in the games prior to that, more than what Holm and Bernardo were doing in other games. Granted, some harder opposition, but those runs in behind, creating space for other players, occupying centre halves at every turn. He gets close, he does occupy people, and it creates space for midfielders. So it's no surprise that some of the types of goals that we've seen kind of came from a certain midfielder, for example. O'Reilly's goal epitomises that type of movement. So the freshening up definitely worked for me. Yeah, 100%.
I wonder if, to an extent, and I'm not knocking anything that's gone prior this season, but Celtic had maybe become a wee bit predictable. Domestically, what Callum McGregor's going to do. He's going to sit in the number 6 and generally just recycle possession without being too, penetrative. Being quite safe. Kyogo up top making his runs, but not able to occupy centre halves in the way that O could, for example. So the two moves that we've mentioned there, Tomoki coming into the midfield, it just unleashed Callum McGregor, didn't it? It just gave him a freedom, and O playing up top just gave Hibs big centre halves. Who was it? Rocky Bashiri and Will Fish, two big guys. And O was a real handful for them. And I just think it made a difference. And actually, I think even just from a fan's point of view, you used the word refreshing, Brydo, or a refresh. And it was just something a wee bit different, something a wee bit less predictable than what we've seen in the past. And ultimately, Celtic came good in the end for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything, probably. Everything in life, isn't it? If something's growing stale, there's no much enjoyment coming from it. Fans as well as the players playing in it. It can become far too predictable, and I think they probably have been. If I was a coach against Celtic, I'd be saying the first thing I'd be doing is picking a player to sit on Callum McGregor, because everything, he was the pulse of the team. Occasionally other players stepped up, that was fine. But putting Iwata in there certainly then allows McGregor to use his kind of football brain in a more advanced position, and ultimately that's what he done pretty much all night. And he set the tone from a higher position on the park, and what that done was that meant other players went with him and pressed with him, and we picked up some scraps. We probably could have had a few more goals than we did and make more from a few opportunities, but we had long shots, we had tight passes, wee short passes, 1-2s at the edge of the box, crosses into the box with a variety of different attacks. It wasn't the same stuff we've seen side, force it, lose it, and kind of huff and puff. It wasn't that tonight. It was very much more assured and energetic, and I would say even more confident than it's been the last few weeks.
You mentioned setting the tone, and that rings true, because what we have seen sometimes at Celtic Park is this pedestrian, very patient build-up. James calls it horseshoe football. Up the left, it's not working, let's go down, back through the midfield, up the right, is that not working, back round, and so on and so forth. Wasn't like that tonight. Really crisp passing. I mentioned at half-time, I tweeted at half-time, Cameron Carter-Vickers is so important to this Celtic team. He's, first and foremost, a really reliable, effective defender, and actually sharper than you think. Steals in and gets the ball when it looks like the defender's favourite, all that kind of stuff. He's no slouch at all. But he's also very composed at starting the attacks. Defenders are the first people that kind of start the ball rolling for Celtic when we're looking to launch a new attack. And he just links it so well. It's not just these square passes back and forth between him and Scales. He'll pop it into Iwata, who was looking for it every time, by the way. He'll pop it out wide, sometimes to Johnston, as in Mikey Johnston, sometimes to Palma. He's not just going one level up, he's breaking the lines. And I just think he's so effective. And I'm hoping it's just a bit of a breather for him at half-time. He obviously went off at the break for Nat Phillips, and we'll get to Nat Phillips in a wee bit. But I just think he's so important to this Celtic side. He played a huge part, Brydo, on the first goal. He'll get the assist for it, but I'm sure he'd far rather get the goal. But it's a rare Celtic goal from a corner, actually. Carter-Vickers goes and attacks it like he should. And O gets a fortunate touch, and you're 1-0 and you're cruising.
Yeah, the early goals in these games, I think we've seen it 1,000 times, and it's the old cliche: get the early goal, and it sets us up. It gives us the confidence to play the expansive football we want to play. 100% right in that kind of horseshoe type football. It's a good analogy because that's exactly what it is. You're absolutely spot on with Carter Vickers and how he plays as well. Breaking the lines with the passes or breaking the lines yourself by carrying the ball forward, whatever it takes to break the lines of the defence or their first defence, i.e. their strikers, is so important when we're playing against teams that I'm not saying Hibs sat in, but they're not going to be as expansive as we are. In order to get that and find the space further up, the passes have to be crisp and they have to be direct and they have to be done really early, i.e. 1-2 touches. Other defenders, good example would be Phillips, extra touch, and it slows the whole game down. It then stops Iwata or McGregor, whoever's in that kind of pivot position, if you like. It stops them getting the space to make their passes forward. So 100% agree. I think it's probably understated how important playing those passes early. Even if he gets the ball back, he's still dragging and moving midfielders and strikers around. So yeah, when he's not playing, he's a big miss. There's no question. So I'm with you. I hope that there's maybe just a wee niggle there and they think the game is kind of done. Let's take him off and not risk any other injuries because we've got some big games coming up.
Yeah, do you know, if you're actually unsure of how effective he is for the Celtic side, without being harsh on him, I don't want to be too critical, but you look at Nat Phillips, as you say, and the way the game changed when he came on. Listen, Celtic were very comfortable. I don't think there was ever any danger of us not taking all 3 points in the night. But as you say, when it got to Phillips, he wasn't quite as brave with the pass. He's taken 3 and 4 touches when Carter Vickers takes sometimes 1, 2 at a push. And I think that in the first half, everybody was doing everything sharp. Now, I love Mikey Johnston, I do. I don't think he did a great game, but I do think he played his part in keeping the game ticking along. He wasn't, he didn't get his assist on the day, he didn't get the goal that he's been crying out for. But what he did do was link up very well with Alistair Johnston, sometimes Matt O'Reilly and some other midfielders, just to keep it alive, keep the ball moving, keep the ball flowing. Because the moment you take that extra touch and slow the game down, that just kills the momentum and it takes away how effective you can be. So I just thought it was really pleasing from start to finish. Everyone, certainly in that first half, was really, really sharp. By the way, we get the second goal around about half an hour later, 36 minutes, I think it was, and it's Louis Palma. He's a guy who's often his first port of call is to come inside onto his right foot and either whip an in-swinging ball in or get a shot on goal. But he took the option to go down the outside. I think, is it Miller, the fullback there? Quite a physical guy, quite an imposing guy. But Palma had a good duel with him during the first half, took him at the byline, clips it across, and O'Reilly's making an art of this, arriving into the box at, perfect timing wise. And it's just a really classy goal. Good header from O'Reilly and just a really well worked move.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I've said this about, I don't know how many podcasts I've done now, but just about nearly every one of them, about wingers getting to the byline. And if some players have got it through natural raw pace, some people have got a bit of trickery to get to the byline or beat their man. But that's how we played under Ange pretty much every game. People who got to the byline, early crosses in, and the striker had the yard or half yard on the defenders. What we've seen, I think, under Rodgers is that in those wide positions, we've not had the same quality, and they've not done that. You see tonight, any midfielders that have played, you make that run and it doesn't come in early, you're gone. You're then out the whole game because you're now went beyond the defender and you've. By that time, the ball's probably back where it's going, or another attack starts somewhere else. And it's even more annoying. You hear top strikers like Shearer and Lineker and all that talk about early crosses into the box. I thought Mikey Johnston was a bit guilty of that part, actually. That's what I would say, checking back all the time. But when you get to the byline and just do the business. So, but you're right. I thought it was a really, 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 really good goal. I thought we worked it well to get to the positions that Rodgers wants us to get to, i.e. a winger one-on-one with a defender. And he commits the defender, but he's got the quality to pick out a player. And O'Reilly's still got to finish it. He's put himself in that position. And like I mentioned at the start, the midfield runners of McGregor and O'Reilly making those runs beyond the striker or into the space that perhaps O's played his part in creating, it makes it far easier to get goals and get threats on the opposition goal. So, yeah, really, really great goal. Actually, I thought it was one that that's what we pay to watch. That's what we're wanting to watch.
Yeah, and you've seen, as you mentioned, you see McGregor starting to get a couple of shots away. O'Reilly, he's playing with a real freedom, isn't he? he wasn't. I think he went off the boil slightly by his own high standards this season over the last few weeks, but he seems to have picked it back up again. He had some big moments, obviously, against St Johnston, particularly the right foot goal. But he enjoyed himself there tonight, didn't he? He was picking balls out the sky, clipping passes with confidence, linking up with the wide guys, perfectly weighted passes at times. Just a really good performance all round. And I think he's starting to develop that art that guys like, did you mention Lampard there, Paul Scholes? Am I allowed to say Steven Gerrard? Guys arriving late in the box, timing it perfectly. And it's so hard to defend because if you get the yard on your opposite number, almost impossible to get a block away if you're coming in at pace into the box. And that's exactly what played out with that second goal. As you say, Brydo, great goal to watch, and it's a kind of purest goal, isn't it? It's just hit the byline, find your man, and job done. Half time, as I mentioned, no huge changes, but we do see that Nat Phillips for Carter Vickers. So as I say, hopefully nothing of note for Carter Vickers, maybe just resting, maybe a wee niggle, but we'll find out. I wonder actually if Brendan Rodgers doesn't take the risk of him on the plastic pitch at Kilmarnock on Sunday. So we'll keep a close eye on that. But we'll only wait about 5 minutes or so for the next Celtic goal. I thought it was a penalty on first viewing, so it's obviously Alistair Johnston that gets taken out by, I think, Louis Stevenson in the box. And in real time, you could debate it, but when it's slowed down, there's no debate. But actually, listen, I always want Celtic to get penalties. I don't like this slowing everything down to death because, yes, there's contact with Stevenson. Enough for a penalty? I don't know. Alistair Johnston didn't make much of a thing about it. But in the modern game, this is a penalty. When you see what's been given elsewhere in various leagues, not just here in Scotland, then it is a penalty. So you take it because obviously you want to increase your lead as much as possible. And then there's a debate. Who's going to take it? We've had our issues. Some have scored, some have missed. Louis Palma missed his last one, but Celtic are absolutely right to keep him on it because he's such a dead ball expert. And it's a very classy penalty.
Yeah, for me, I actually called penalty in live view, and I just thought that he's kind of put his body between the ball. And if you're a defender, I have no problem with it going to ground, but you've got to win the ball. If you don't win, ultimately you're committing yourself. So your punishment for not winning the ball is essentially that's a penalty, and that's ultimately what we got. And I was a bit kind of going, who to take it because obviously he's won. But I think maybe he's taken that run up out his arm right now, and he's just put part in a cupboard somewhere, and he just slotted that penalty away. It's as good a penalty as you'll see. So it was, and you can proper relief because we've seen the team maybe a couple of goals up, and it gets a bit touchy if we concede one. So it just finished it off and allowed us to kind of play with even more freedom.
Yeah, as I say, I think the game was never in doubt from an early stage, but that just absolutely lets you relax and enjoy the second half in full, actually, because, as I say, it's only around about 50, 51 minutes, but good for Palma's confidence, good for the team's confidence that we do have somebody that, when push comes to shove, he can tuck it away and strike a nice, clean penalty. So here's hoping he remains on them for the foreseeable. I mean, at that point in the game, Brydo, I think Palma was good. I don't think he was his brilliant best, but he was good. But effectively, you could debate that he's had 2 assists. He's put the corner in for Carter Vickers for the first goal. He's put the cross in for O'Reilly for the second. He's tucked away the penalty. So 50 minutes in, he's not had a brilliant night, and he's responsible pretty much for all 3 of the goals. And it's a sign of a talented guy. Players of that ilk, they get involved in the important moments, do they? And this is where a guy like Mikey Johnston can learn. Mikey Johnston came in and he was perfectly fine tonight. But Mikey Johnston, between now and January, he needs to get more than fine. He needs to put in more St Johnstone displays than Hibs displays, if we want to be blunt about it. And he's got a guy in his squad, a guy in the opposite wing, in Louis Palma, that's showing you exactly what you need to do. As a wide man, you need to register assists and register goals, and Palma does both. Yeah,
and I think Palma's biggest attribute is, I have this argument with my brother. He seems to think he's fast. He's not fast. He reminds me very much of Elyounoussi, playing in that kind of wide position, but gets involved, and he's quite happy to get to the back post from a ball from the other wing, like his goal against Lazio that didn't count type of chance he'll happily get involved with. But you're right. I mean, he's involved. He's got an impact on, and the best players over the history of football, that's what they do. You know, that's in every team. The players that you remember are the ones that impact games. Alan Thompson would be an example. Didn't do loads of stuff, but he banged goals in big games and be remembered. All those players, Petrov, big goals, big games, and you can go right the way through the players that we remember and talk about. They all impacted games. You'd have other players like Paddy McCourt, who would be great now and again, but didn't impact the games enough. Mikey Johnston might be the same. I don't know, but Palma has came in, and when I see him in our team, I'm happy because I know that if he gets the ball, he is trying to impact the game positively for us. And more often than not, he does. Be it an assist, or be it a goal himself, or free kick. He had a good free kick as well. We've not had that for a while. Free kicks and obviously ultimately penalty kicks. So I think he's a really important player for us. He's had a couple of wee iffy moments in the past as well. Not great games, but he's come in for another country, and he's settled in reasonably quickly. And I think a lot of fans would have him as one of their favourite players this season so far.
You talk about impacting games, which of course is important. It's the most important thing, but along with it, you've got to do it consistently, and that's what we're starting to see. I'll dig out the stats for the next show that we do, but Palma's assists and goals must be creeping up there. Pretty impressive. I know he was running on track with Jota's early stats at Celtic, and he might well have overtaken them by now. So really good numbers for a guy, as you say, Brydo. He's become a real fan's favourite, and he's cemented that left wing position. It's now a debate who Celtic's right winger will be moving forward. Is it Johnston? Is it Maeda? Is it Tillio, who still looks a bit off it, to be honest with you? Is Abada going to come in and challenge again? So exciting options moving forward, but Palma's certainly doing his job. The fourth goal was just a few minutes later, Brydo. It's a brilliant through ball by Callum McGregor. If he means it, I think it might be for Palma, but it certainly runs into the path of O. Now, this is where O gives you that different option than Kyogo, because he has to outmuscle the defender. He has to get physical. I think it's Will Fish, and he just bumps him out the road. There's no question of a foul. He's just stronger than the guy. He does that. He nudges him out the way. He's one-on-one with the goalie, and he tucks it away just really calmly. And I was delighted for him because, yes, he'll get credit for the first goal, but as a striker, you don't really feel you've earned that or got that. You know, you've not really done much. Whereas this one's an out-and-out number 9's goal. And he's a guy that needs confidence. He's not playing a lot of football, but he'll have taken a massive boost for that. He got man of the match in the stadium, Bridle. Not sure if I agree with that, but he'll take a lot of confidence for the goal. And he looked pretty pleased over all his night's work.
Yeah, I think he's got a real positive energy about him. He's always endeavouring to do his best. He's always working. I actually think he tries too hard. I prefer the guys in that end of the pitch to be a bit more relaxed, and give yourself time to think sometimes. He doesn't. He's a bit brash and rash. I said a couple of weeks ago, I think that I think it was after the Lazio game, that if the people watching from the board don't see that it's Giakoumakis is a better option than that I don't know what they're watching. But that's right now. Giakoumakis has got a few years on and he does need a chance. You can't, we've got to judge people on a proper chance. But unfortunately at Celtic, you don't normally get them. You don't normally get chances to prove that you're not good enough, because ultimately it could cost us points, and it's normally tight enough. So I was delighted for him, because it was a real, like you said, it was a real proper striker's goal, and also a goal, like exactly you said as well, that Kyogo wouldn't have scored. Kyogo wouldn't have got in that position. He wouldn't have outmuscled the defender. He may have tucked away, of course, he's quality, but for me it was doing all that hard work, getting himself in, and then having the composure and the confidence to tuck it away. And that's a real good thing, and a real good sign for us that we've got two strikers there now. And he scored a few goals, and his goals to minute, I believe, must be one of the best we've seen for a wee while as well, because he's not had a lot of minutes. So yeah, I just like the fact that, again, he impacted the game most of the time when he was involved, so in a positive way. So fair play to him. He's had to wait. Took a lot of kind of criticism, but perhaps that's maybe his shout to get more minutes. But not start all the time, but they may give the manager confidence that he can affect the game for him.
I wonder now, on that basis, going down to Rugby Park for the lunchtime kick-off on Sunday, I think most fans would probably be okay with him getting the nod again. What you've mentioned there is some guys trying too hard. I think O's definitely been guilty of that. Mikey Johnston's potentially still a bit guilty of that at the moment. And bizarrely, you've got Kyogo, the top man, the best goal scorer at the club, coming on tonight and trying too hard. He was dropping a bit deeper than we usually see him. He missed a really decent chance, the ball over the top from Alistair Johnston in the latter stages. He then tries to snap a shot away when a pass was a better option. And actually, you seen, I think it was Matt O'Reilly went up to him at the end of the game just after the whistle and kind of tried to pick him up. He looked a bit down on his luck. And it's unlike him. He's a bubbly character, same as O. He's got a lot of personality about him. But he's out of sorts just now. We've debated, is he out of sorts or is he not getting the service? He's out of sorts. You can see it when he gets the ball. It's just not happening for him. So not to make a negative of anything tonight, it's really positive all round. But I suppose if Brendan Rodgers is giving guys time, on merit, then O should be the man just now. And I think he might well get a further nod on Sunday. Excuse me, at Rugby Park. Celtic do concede a goal, which is frustrating. Joe Hart will be annoyed. Goalies obviously live and breathe clean sheets. That's their thing. I've got to pin this one on Nat Phillips. I just thought he was turned inside out. He was all legs, wasn't he? He just didn't look like he was getting close enough to. Was it Ewan that was out wide for that one, perhaps? Anyway, the Hibs guys got the ball across and Doy just tucked it away. I seen somebody online trying to blame Joe Hart. Listen, I think Hart's at fault for a lot of things. Cannot be at fault for that. I think it's Phillips, and I wonder if Scales could maybe do a bit better. But I go back to a man I talked about earlier on. If Carter Vickers is on Brydo, I don't think we concede that goal.
No, we don't. It's pure and simple. It's reading the game. It's fitness as well. It's match sharpness. I've never been impressed with Phillips in any shape nor form. We've had a couple of players now in the last few years that we felt that we felt as fans that perhaps we needed. So somebody really good in the air, to win, set dead balls and whatever. And Shane Duffy and that first, and none of them. It's just on the ball. It looks just so nervous. I'll show you my jumper. Right, this is what I think's good said when the ball comes to him. Just lights all over the. You see my Christmas jumper, all over the. I just think he just doesn't look like he's ready. He doesn't look like he's ready to put on his picture in his mind. He just panics, and then when he makes a mistake, he just doesn't know what he's doing. But he was lucky just about maybe 5 minutes before the goal. He get turned inside out. He fell over. And Johan, I think it was just before he got taken off, kind of turned him inside out, and he just looked Sunday League. I'm afraid. I mean, why he's at Liverpool or whatever, I'll never know. But and I think him coming on, I'm saying, what does that say about Lagerbielke and everything? I mean, it really, I don't know. You've got to trust the manager, and the manager must know who's best for us. He's brought him on against did he win with Lazio at home, didn't he?
Atletico at home, I think.
Atletico, aye. We changed the tactics, that's right, against Atletico. So he's kind of 30, if Carter Vickers are the two, so it's a worry that, but yeah, it's nothing to do with Joe Hart, not really. You can't do much. If your defender leaves you high and dry like that, and the boy, and again, gets behind the defender and gets to the byline, it's very, very hard to defend. You're facing your own goal, and that's why it's so important we do that. But ultimately, yeah, Carter Vickers, I think, bosses the guy, and probably ushers to a position where he gives a corner away or something, maybe at worst. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't a great showing. He's probably a guy who just wants to get to January and go home. That's what I think he wants to do. That's what he should do. He's had too many pints. He's the head up the road.
Maybe so. I mean, they'll say to any defender, won't they, Brydo? Stop the cross first and foremost. Stop the cross. If you concede a corner through it, so be it. If it goes out for a throw-in, if it breaks to a teammate, but stop the cross first and foremost. That's the immediate danger. And he didn't look like he was capable at any point during that attack. And I don't know. I mean, in all likelihood, he'll head back down south in January. But you're right to point out the fact that, okay, if Nawrocki and Lagerbielke can't get ahead of him in the pecking order, what are they doing or not doing at Lennoxtown at this moment in time? So, listen, there's a few things like that we'll need to cover maybe in the weekly shows. Talio's a man for discussion. He came on and didn't offer much at all. He had a real powder puff shot in the closing minutes. I don't know, not sure where we're at with Tilly, and there's work to be done. He'll be given time, of course he will, but not great on tonight's showing. Bernardo came on, done okay. Tony Ralston came on for Taylor, done pretty well at times, I thought. And obviously we've covered Kyogo coming on for O. So that's the gist of it, Brydo. It finishes 4-1, and most important during this busy run of fixtures is getting the 3 points, isn't it? By whichever way. But it's good to go to Celtic Park, turn in a performance, kind of blow away some of those first half blues from Sunday against St Johnston, and just show the fans, what we're capable of at Celtic Park, and long may that continue, across the rest of the season and beyond. Brydo, your final thoughts as Celtic maintain that 8-point gap at the top of the table?
Yeah, it's just great to get a performance like that and sustain it for the majority of the game. That's what it looked like. It looked like they just, after they got the 3 goals, they could easily have sat back, but they didn't. And I think that's obviously been a message that's been given across to them by the manager. They wanted to make more of a statement. So, no, I thought they'd done that. I thought, again, individual performances to give us more positivity, I suppose, because sometimes we can be a bit down about certain parts of it. So just great to get those individual performances. Great to see a wee bit of difference, a wee bit of refreshment in the thoughts of the manager. And there's players coming back from injury too, so we've got a busy spell, and I think it's just important. Hibs are a decent side off the back of 3 wins, so it could have been tricky if we weren't on our game. And I just thought, pretty much across the park, we done the job. In fact, more than enough. In fact, so no, fair play to the players for getting up for it and doing the job.
Yeah, good night all round, and it's good to see that they're responding to what the manager wants. And as I say, I think St Johnston at half time could be a really important moment just in terms of geeing the boys up and getting them back on track. Brydo, thanks as always for jumping on. Thanks for wearing that spectacular Christmas jumper. If anyone has not seen it, I'll share some clips in the socials. It's a joy to behold. But from Celtic's point of view, as I say, we maintain that 8-point gap at the top of the table. Next up, we've got Kilmarnock in that Sunday lunchtime kickoff at Rugby Park. We'll be back on Friday, as always, with the countdown to kick-off ahead of that one. But in the meantime, for myself and Brydo, thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you again very soon.